Right Reverend Terry Riley. I'm a third-degree high priest and founding elder of the Southern Delta Church of Wicca, and our church is located in Lake City, Arkansas. We've been there we just celebrated our 30th anniversary of being established. We were around in 1993. I don't know if you can look it up in some of the stuff. Back in 1993, when the West Memphis murders occurred, they occurred sometime in May of 1993. I opened an occult shop in June of 1993. And it automatically got tied into the misconceptions about the occult, paganism, Wicca, witchcraft, and all that at the same time. And the landlord would not renew my lease on the building. So in protest, I organized a Freedom of Religion March for August 1st, 1993. And it was covered by CNN, all the major news organizations, Newsweek. Intervista came out and did an article on us that went into Japan and 29 foreign countries, so we got worldwide press out of it. And we got to educate the people exactly what the religion of Wicca was. Now, how many in here, just so I have an old hands and know who I'm talking to, how many in here exactly have done any research on the religion of Wicca? Oh, good, virgin territory. So, well, let me start off by saying that the religion of Wicca, as it is known today, is a fairly modern religion. It was established legally in the 1950s. Now, the religion of Wicca is a nature-based religion and a goddess-based religion. We worship a god and a goddess form of divinity. Okay? We don't have just one single deity. We have duality, male and female. The religion of Wicca is first and foremost a religion that utilizes the practice of magic. Now, that is 300 years ago in Europe, witches existed. And if you look up in 1600, they even had the burning times where they started burning witches because they felt they was in league with Satan and killing people and stuff. But I think the estimate of that time period, there was about over 100,000 people put to death on the charge of witchcraft throughout Europe. Even had in 1692 the Salem witch trials here, where 20 people were put to death on the charge of witchcraft. But the belief was back then in diabolical Satanism that witches, and even King James wrote about it in Exodus, suffer a witch not to live. Not many people know that King James, when he authorized the publishing and writing in English of the King James Version of the Bible, he was deathly afraid of witches. He believed there was a group of witches at the time attacking him with spells and stuff. So he had some of the writings from the original Hebrew changed. The one in Exodus where it says, suffer a witch not to live, in the original Hebrew, it translates to, do not consort with the sacred priestesses of the temple of Demeter, which is a totally different meaning. Okay? At the time, in that time frame, the old gods were worshipped and they had temples set up and they had priests and priestesses, pretty much like the Catholic Church has now, nuns and priests that took care of the churches. So the original writing said, do not consort with the sacred priestesses of the temple of Demeter. King James, because he was afraid of witches and stuff, had it changed to suffer a witch not to live. Okay, that's some of the history. Witchcraft is a practice. It's working of magic. Now, what I mean by magic, I don't mean, lightning bolts coming out of your fingertips and fireballs coming out your wazoo out the back end. That's Hollywood. The magic we're talking about is psychic abilities mental abilities, and working with the laws of nature and the laws of the universe. A lot of the times, the magic we work now is pretty much, my sister who's Catholic, when she came down for Yule celebration, Christmas time, at my house back in the early 90s, she came in there and she goes, and I had a tree up in the living room. She goes, I thought you didn't celebrate Christmas. I said, I don't. I celebrate Yule, the first day of winter solstice. She goes, but you have a Christmas tree up in your living room. I said, no, I don't. I have a Yule tree. And I looked at her and I said, if you look in Jeremiah 19, verse 20, it says, be not as a pagan and heathen who go out and cut a tree, fasten it with hammer and nail, and decorate it with gold and silver. I said, that's a Yule tree. It's an old pagan tradition. Most Christians don't know that. Okay? And there's a lot of traditions out there that were established over the years from paganism. The Easter Bunny, prime example. Back in the old days, there was a goddess that was worshipped in Europe called Estara. She was a fertility goddess. The people prayed to her in springtime when they get ready to plant their crops and stuff, so they wanted fertility. And the eggs at that time were a symbol of fertility. They used to dance around the bonfire at that time, and they would throw the eggs into the bonfire as a form of sympathetic magic so the crops would grow big. Estara had a magical familiar. You know what a familiar is? An animal that's attached to somebody. Her magical familiar was a hare. So the legend then continues that Estara's hare creates fertility. And then later on it got switched around to Easter, and Easter's hare, or Easter's rabbit, or Easter's bunny. So that's why we celebrate hunting the eggs now. Has really nothing to do with the resurrection of the Savior. It has to do with an old pagan tradition. Not a lot of people do. How many in here have heard the old expression of kissing under the mistletoe at Christmas time? How many of you have heard that? Yeah. You know where that comes from? There was a group of priests and priestesses back in the day in England, and they were Druids. Druids were the priestly class that the people turned to at that time. The Druids worshipped in oak groves. They were nature-based religion. The Druid priests would gather together, and at Yule, their sacred herb was a mistletoe that grew in the top of the oak tree. And they would have to climb up in that oak tree with special rituals and cut that mistletoe down, and they would catch it. And then, because it was a time of fertility as well as a fire festival, they would have orgies, sexual orgies under the oak, in the oak grove under the mistletoe, which has now been watered down to just kissing under the mistletoe. That's where that tradition came from. A lot of misconceptions out there. So the next time you want to kiss under the mistletoe, now you know where it came from. Now, back in '93, I opened an occult shop in old downtown Nettleton. And at the same...
What's occult to it? I've heard of it, negative things sometimes, right. But is there any real meaning of occult?
Yeah, the word occult, original meaning is anything that's secret or hidden. Okay? A lot of the practices, because of the burning times that the witches had to contend with at the time, they went into underground secret and hiding. So they were called occult practices. I even got in trouble one time when I had a radio broadcast on Sunday morning, and I had mentioned on one Sunday morning broadcast that, because I read in the Bible where Jesus taught things to his disciples, and he said, go tell no man what I teach you. Keep it secret. So I mentioned on my radio broadcast that Jesus taught occult knowledge to his disciples. Oh, I come off flack for that. But the word occult means secret or hidden. Okay. Now the word cult means any group of followers that band together under one notion or one premise or one program or one philosophy. That's a cult. Just about all religions out there, Wicca, Christianity, all of them out there can be classified as a cult. But the word occult has a negative connotation because most people relate it to Satanism. Okay. Wicca does not even believe in an entity called Satan, so therefore we don't worship him. Okay. We go back well before Christianity. If you do some of the research, some of the stuff that we believe in Wicca is nature-based, and you can go all the way back to the Paleolithic times when the men and women at that time did not understand the universe the way we understand it today. And to them, there was a god of the clouds, or a goddess of the crops, or a spirit of the rocks, or a spirit of the trees. Everything had a form of animism. See, and a spirit or a deity attached to it. So a lot of the Wicca practices today look at the same way. Prime example of it. How many of you know what the definition of the word imagination is? It literally means image in the mind. Did you know that the mind cannot decipher when you imagine something and when it happens in your current reality? Prime example. If I was to tell you to close your eyes, and I want you to visualize what I'm telling you, I'm going to describe something to you. I want you to visualize your hand sitting on a table with a lemon right there in front of it. I want you to visualize taking a knife and cutting that lemon in half. And you'll see some of the juices run out on the table and stuff. And then I want you to visualize taking that lemon up, half of that lemon, and hold it above your mouth and squeeze and let the juices hit your lips and then to your tongue, and you feel the... When you do that, you will start salivating, because the mind cannot distinguish what is real or what is imagined. Okay? Therefore, the mind has control over all of our realities. And that's not just Wicca's promises. I believe it says, as a man thinketh, so is he. Thoughts are things. We as human beings, no matter what deity or religion you practice, we as human beings have a divine right of creativity along with the creation and the Creator himself, because we have the ability to think, to be able to rationalize, the ability to create with our minds. You know, what is the other old saying? What the mind can conceive and believe, it will achieve. That's the way all the great inventions got done throughout history. Somebody created something and visualized something that wasn't existing yet, and through that imagination and through work, they brought it down from the mental realm into the physical realm. That's what we classify as magic in the religion of Wicca. It's not, we do cast spells, per se. Spells, or we do rituals. But let me tell you something. What we classify as spells, like, every religion prays to their deity in some form or another. Okay? When we pray, it's like a prayer being acted out. Some religions you can pray to your deity in word form and be very sincere. Well, in Wicca, if you need a new job, or you need more money in your life, or whatever you need in your life, you put something on an altar that represents that. And then you see yourself having that. And that's a form of prayer to our deity that's just acted out. That's all it is. That's what a spell is. It's a prayer that's generally acted out. Now, here's another misconception. Like I said, we don't worship Satan. We don't worship the devil. Now, the same deity that we worship in our religion, we have a triple deity. We have the all-encompassing spirit, which the Christians call God, which the Muslims call Allah, which the Hindus call Brahman. It's the same deity, no matter what name you call it. We all worship the same deity, we just have different labels for it, okay? Now, in the religion of Wicca, we believe that great spirit can only manifest in this physical world through the universal law of gender. Everything has to have male and female in it. You can't create something in this physical world unless the universal law of gender applies, even at the molecular level. If you took inside an atom, the protons are the masculine aspect of the atom. The electrons are the feminine aspect of the atom. When those two forces come together, you have what we call creation. So through the spirit, the all-encompassing spirit, everything that's manifested in here is through a goddess and God aspect, a masculine and feminine aspect that come together and create and manifest into this physical world. So our deities then are triple. Spirit, all-encompassing spirit, God, and goddess. Through that tri-aspect, you get manifestation in this physical world. And that's not just Wicca, that's science, that's physics, that's all the way down. Okay, now, he said you're going to be, well, you have to keep me on track here, because I get, he's got me speaking for 50 minutes, so I only got a limited amount of time here. Let's go back to the West Memphis Three. At the time that happened, I was interviewed by multiple, I was in Newsweek, I was on the Jane Whitney show, every newspaper from Memphis to Little Rock to, I think we even made the front page of the London Times. They always asked me the same question. What about Damien Echols, the ringleader of that? They said, do you believe? Because what happened was when he went on trial in Jonesboro, and on Channel 8 News, at that time, they showed at 10 o'clock that night when Damien Echols took the stand, they point blank asked him, what religion do you practice? And he said, Wicca. And as soon as he said that, Channel 8 started showing me and our coven doing a ritual out behind the Magic Moon, the occult shop I had, which automatically associates us with that crime. Okay? My archpriest in Seattle, Washington, called the TV station, threatened to sue them. They said, well, when he said Wicca, the only reference we had was Terry Riley and what he was doing over there in his occult shop. My archpriest said, well, Damien Echols said he took his name, Damien, from the Catholic priest. You didn't show a Catholic mass when he said that. But they apologized for that. Okay? So every time, I think it was Channel 5 News came out and interviewed me, said, what do you think of Damien Echols? Do you believe that he is guilty of killing those 3 little boys? I said, it's like this. If Damien Echols is Wiccan, then he did not commit those murders, because that is not in the tenets of the religion of Wicca. I said, besides that, just because somebody says they are that religion doesn't necessarily mean they're going to follow the tenets of that religion. I said, I look at Jim Jones. He professed to be a Christian. He had 800 people commit suicide back in Guyana. Was he a prime example of being a Christian? You cannot take one person who lies about their tenets and stuff and then condemn the entire faith because of one person. I said, Damien Echols, if he committed this crime, he's not Wiccan. And if he is Wiccan, he didn't commit this crime. As it turned out, 20 years later, they didn't commit that crime. They don't really know who committed that crime yet. They haven't brought anybody back to trial. But at the time of the trial, I contacted Damien Echols' attorneys. I said, I don't know if your client is innocent or guilty, but I don't think he's going to get a fair trial here in Jonesboro. And I had an FBI report about the occult activity and stuff, and they had another guy there that was testifying as a occult expert by the name of Dale Griffiths, and I had an FBI report on him as being a fake and a fraud. And I said, I want to send that to you. And on the news that night, they had my report, his attorneys did, and they used that report to try to defend Damien Echols. But at the time, when I first came out in 1993, no one in the city of Jonesboro had ever heard of the word Wicca. All they ever heard and associated was with witchcraft, which was simultaneous with Satanism. So they condemned us because they did not understand. And at the time when I was going through that, I got denied service at grocery stores. When I walked up to the cash out, they would shut the cash register down and walk off. They refused to serve me cups of coffee at local restaurants I went to. I got thrown off of jobs because of who I was. I got kicked out of houses that I was renting because of who and my faith. So there's a lot of discrimination going on behind the time. And I knew when I went public, because I was the first one in this area that the day the landlord and the preachers came into my shop and said, "You need to shut down. We're going to do other things with this business." And I'd only been open about a week. And they said, "You need to shut down. If you get out of here next week, it'd be just fine with us." So they just shut my shop down. Wouldn't renew the lease, told me to get out. Which, to be honest with you, pissed me off. So that afternoon, I went down to the Jonesboro Sun. I said, "Hey, y'all be interested in a witch getting kicked out of the cult shop because of his religion, and I'm going to sue the landlord?" And everybody at the Jonesboro Sun went, "Excuse me? You're a witch?" I went, "Yeah." He goes, You're a real witch." I went, "Duh, yeah, I'm a real witch." So they snatched me up, took me in the back room, started taking all kinds of photographs and writing down the story and everything. And I'm answering questions and stuff, and this, that, and the other. And after about 30 minutes, I said, "Are you going to run the story?" He goes, "Yeah, we're running it tomorrow. Front page of the Jonesboro Sun," which happened to be Sunday, main edition. Now, up until this time, I wasn't public. I was kind of in the closet. I had a little coven I was running. We got together, at night on full moons and new moons, and we done our ceremonies. We would draw the curtains. We'd be quiet so the neighbors couldn't hear us, because I knew what was going to happen if somebody found out. "You're in the middle of the Bible Belt. You're practicing witchcraft. They're going to kill you." I was afraid. But what changed me was my daughter. She was 5 years old at the time. I've told this story a lot. We did full moon one night. I had the coven together. This is before I opened the shop or anything. And she was in the ceremony with us. And the next morning, I'm outside and I'm fixing to put her on the school bus. And she's standing there. She's blonde-headed, blue-eyed, about this tall, 5 years old. She said, "Daddy, I can't wait to get to school today to tell everybody about our ritual last night." And I went, "Honey, you probably don't need to be telling everybody what we do at the house here at night." Because I was afraid. I was scared. And you know how they say out of the mouth of babes? She looked up at me and says, "Why, Daddy? Is what we're doing wrong?" And I knew it wasn't. But I knew everybody else believed it was. And I finally looked at her and I said, "No, honey. What we're doing is not wrong. And we should be able to speak about our religion and our faith the same as any other major faith of the world out there." So from that statement from my daughters, when I decided to open the occult shop, the Magic Moon, go through all the discrimination and stuff that I went through, so I can be here today talking to you about this faith. And it's changed a lot since then. We are an affiliated congregation of the Aquarian Tabernacle Church, established in 1979 in Seattle, Washington. I am the High Summiter. I sit on the High Council of that organization. It is a worldwide organization. We have branches of the Aquarian Tabernacle Church. We've got 37 affiliated congregations in the United States, like my church. We've got ATC, Aquarian Tabernacle Church. We have ATC Canada, ATC Ireland, Italy, South Africa, Australia. So we're an international organization. And one of our main goals, and one of my life's work has been since 1993, is to educate people and to try to eliminate the misconceptions about the religion of Wicca, so we can have the same dignity and respect as the other major face of the world. But as long as people think that we cut up babies, sacrifice animals, and cast spells on people to hurt people, that's not going to happen. Those are all misconceptions. Do you know why if people believe that witches ride around on brooms? Do you know that story? Years ago in Europe, what they call sympathetic magic, people would do rituals in the springtime for fertility, sympathetic magic. So what they do is they gather around the farm field that they just planted their seeds in, okay? They would grab their brooms, their pitchforks, and their shovels, and they would ride them like hobby horses. And they would sing and chant and dance around the field, leaping into the air to show the crops how high they wanted them to grow. Well, the town folk, witnessing this at a distance, came up with that they were blighting the crops to kill everyone, and they were actually riding around on brooms and using the powers of Satan to do all this stuff. That's ridiculous. Of course, that was 300 years ago. They didn't have all the scientific knowledge we got now. Okay, things have changed. Southern Baptist Church Wicca, right now, 5 years ago, the city of Lake City sent us a notice to the church and said, "Would you be interested in putting a float in our annual Christmas parade?" I went down to City Hall with a letter. I said, "Hey, is this real? You asking this?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, we will." And we did. We put a float in, celebrating the winter solstice I played Old Man Winter. My high priestess was Mother Nature. We got the float going, and we won first place trophy for best church float out of 12 other churches that year. And we've been doing it every year. We won first place again last year. We did the Polar Express one year, got third place. Now everybody in Lake City, they see us coming around the corner, they'll look and go, "Here come the Wiccans. They got their float up there." Last year we had the Horn God of the Hunt. I had a statue up there with antlers on it. And we had the Green Man. We celebrated everything about Wicca. And we won first place. We have established a year ago a food pantry. We're hooked up with the Northeast Arkansas Food Bank because we're a 501c3 nonprofit. And we get, this morning we had to pick up a load to take to the pantry. I think we had something like 4,000 pounds of food we pick up per week. Right now we're feeding 60 families in Lake City and the surrounding areas. We have 600 people a month that we're feeding through our food pantry and our community garden that we grow all the fruits and vegetables now for and give it away to our community, to the people of low income that are hungry. That's where we're at now. And most of the time, if I get interviewed by a newspaper or a TV station, they don't call me self-proclaimed witch Terry Riley like they did in 1993 because they understand we're a 501c3 registered with the federal government, and we are a nonprofit incorporated organization filed in Little Rock. They say now Reverend Terry Riley. And the reason they do that is because when I was on the Jane Whitney show in 93, every time they showed me talking, they would have a little thing on it, self-proclaimed witch Terry Riley. And they had a Christian minister on there. And every time he talked, it would say Reverend Gary Taylor, so-and-so, so-and-so church. So I asked the executive producer, I said, "Why is it," because I had a license. You can't sign a marriage license in Arkansas unless you get minister credentials. That means you got to have ordination from a tax-exempt church, and then you can register and you can sign the marriage license. You got to record them. And they said, "Well," this is 93, executive producer said, "Well, legally, we cannot put Reverend in front of anyone's name unless that religion has a seminary that you can send people to." When I come back off that show in 1993, I told my archpriest that, Pete Pathfinder Davis, who started the Aquarian Tabernacle Church. In 1994, he started the Wolstenstein Theological Seminary, state approved. And then they got, later on they got me to teach in it. So, by the way, I am a professor in a theological seminary now. And that, because we have a seminary that we train our clergy through, now the media has freedom to put our titles in front of us. Okay? So a lot of stuff has changed since 1993. As a matter of fact, I never met Damien Echols. I had somebody contact me in 93 or 94 saying that he was requesting a clergy member of Wicca to come minister to him. And somebody I knew in another organization contacted me, said, do you want to go register to see Damien Echols? He was on death row. I called my archpriest. I said, so do you think I need to go down there? He goes, no. He goes, I got other priests and priestesses in that area that we can send over there. So, Terry, if you go down there at this particular time to meet with Damien Echols, they will burn you out. Because they're still associating witchcraft and Wicca and all that to what happened to those 3 little boys. He goes, and he did. He said, you stay the hell away from there. You're too close. He goes, I got other priests and priestesses, and he wound up sending other ones through the ATC to go minister to him. In 1993, after the march, we had to have bodyguards because we kept getting drive-bys at the church. 3 times we had shots fired at the church with pellets raining down. My children spent most of their time when they were growing up in school in the middle of the night being woke up and said, get down on the floor, and they had to lay face down in the kitchen floor in case the shots rang through the walls so they wouldn't get hit. Well, this was back in 94, 95. And that's all because people didn't understand our religion. What's that old saying? What people do not understand, they will fear. And what they cannot assimilate into a culture, they will destroy. So the only way I knew that we could remedy this situation was bring Wicca to the forefront and explain who we are, what we do, that we're not that much different than any other faith out there. You know, we just have different terminology for the same thing. We're all, you know, we're all trying to achieve, every religion out there is trying to get to the same spot. And then every religion has different labels for the same thing. And what I found out over the years is that every religion is arguing over the damn labels. I don't understand that, you know. I call it spirit, you call it God, you call it Brahman, you call it Allah. What difference does it make what you call it? It's the same thing. Okay? The 14th of this month, we got invited to go to the food bank for an interfaith conference. They have called all the clergy leaders in our area together to come to a conference to discuss how every faith leader in our area can help substance abuse among our teenage communities. I'm going to that. Several of my ministers and priestesses are going to that because they specifically wanted minority faith leaders to come to this conference. Now, I said, it's a golden opportunity. I'm willing to work with any other religion out there for the benefit of the community and the benefit of the people. If I can find some other faith leaders out there that are willing to work with our church to help stop people from getting overdosed on fentanyl and all this stuff that's going on, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to work with them. Hopefully there's some out there, if we can get past these misconceptions about who we are and what we do, you know, then we're going to progress. It takes a culture an average of 70 years to accept a new idea. Wicca in the public presence in this area has only been out in the public's eye for about 30 years. That means we got 40 more years to go before it's accepted. So we still got a lot more work to do. That's one of the reasons when Professor Brown asked me to come up here and talk, I went, hell yeah. Anytime I can educate people of who we are and what we do, I'm all for that.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the meaning of the tattoo? Because you said that people are afraid of things they don't know. That might scare some people or something?
It does in some instances, but it's also a door opener. In Wicca, we have different traditions, like denominations. in Christianity. My tradition of Wicca, because I was initiated as a Druid, like I talked about earlier, we take a symbol of our faith on the third eye area, pretty much like the Hindu do. This is the Alwyn. It's an old Celtic term, which means the light of three rays, and the truth shall shine down through that. So when I became a full-fledged Druid and initiated, and I took on the tattoo as a representation of my faith. And I get a lot of questions about it. And most of the time, the most simplest one, instead of going through that long explanation like I just give y'all, most people go, hey, what does that tattoo mean on your forehead? And I say, well, it's a religious symbol that represents the same equivalent definition of someone in the Christian faith receiving the Holy Ghost. They go, oh, okay, which is basically what it is. When you become, enlightened and dedicated to your path and stuff, then you take the tattoo. Okay. A lot of people see the tattoo. I was on a cruise about 5 years ago. Here's what I found out about people. An old man, and at that time, I had a priest collar. And it was dinner night. You had to dress up to go to dinner. So I just put my suit on, had my priest collar on. I still had the tattoo. And I'm walking around the swimming pool after we got done with dinner. This old man, older than I was, comes up to me and goes, what does that tattoo mean on your forehead? I said, I'm a priest of Wicca. He did not hear the part that said Wicca. All he heard was priest. He said, oh, you're a priest? And he grabbed a chair next to a table and goes, can I talk to you for a moment? I have some problems. I said, sure. So I sat down with him and I talked with him for about 45 minutes. He was telling me about his son who was into drugs and he didn't know what to do. And, and I counseled with him and he said, well, I really appreciate your influence and your advice. People who are really hurting don't really care about labels. He heard the word priest, and it didn't matter what kind of priest I was. I had a guy that I worked with at Trailmobile years ago, black guy, by the name of Eric, and he was in Desert Storm. And everybody knew when I started to work there who I was when I came to work. Eric was a good Christian man. And me and him had to work together in a pickup driving around the lot every day. And he started asking me questions about Wicca. And then he started talking to me about problems he was having in his life. About tithing, his marriage was this. And I would give him biblical scriptures, because I've read the Bible 5 times. I don't have it memorized, but I know a pretty good judge of it. And I'd say, okay, go read this scripture tonight, And this went on for about 4 months. Every day he'd ask me questions. We're sitting down taking a break one day outside, and he's sitting on the bumper of a trailer. He goes, Terry, I kind of consider you my priest. He goes, you've helped me get stronger in my faith. You've helped me get right with God in my church. You've helped me in my marriage. He said, I consider you my priest. You've helped me a lot. He goes, and you're a witch. How's that possible? I said, Eric, if I've helped you get closer to your concept of what you see as your deity, no matter what deity it is, if I've helped you in any way get closer communion to your concept of God, then I've done my job as a priest. Period. Yes, I'm a priest of Wicca, but primarily I'm a priest to the people and to the land. And we have a saying at Southern Baptist Church of Wicca, when you come into that door for the first time, that's our job. I said, we're not here to tell you how you should live your life. We don't have a dogma. We don't have a sacred book. We don't have a 10 Commandments. I said, when you come in that door, our main concern that we train our clergy for is to find a way to help you get closer to your idea of God. Not my idea, not the church's idea, because Wicca It's an individualized experience, religion. You may have a group of people together, but everybody perceives and experiences religious and spiritual experiences differently. You're going to experience a spiritual experience different than this guy over here. So if I'm going to minister to you, I'm going to minister your specific experience and him a specific experience. You can't just clump everybody together and go, you got to do this and have this experience. You know, because we need to understand, most people believe that they are physical beings trying to find the spiritual experience. Not right. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And if you can get that in your head, then all religions are correct in their way of trying to assist people along that path. I have nothing against any other religion out there. I want to work with every other religion out there, you know. And I believe if we can get that concept out there and get past these misconceptions about the religion of Wicca, then the world will be a better place. You know, if everybody would just learn to, you know, look past the differences and start working together to form a better community, a closer community, and start helping one another.
I had a few questions, if you don't mind me asking.
Sure.
Just like when you got like shot at and stuff from the church and other things, did you call the police and how did they react? Did they actually try to protect you, or were they also prejudiced?
Well, yeah, because after the march, you know, when we did the march, we had every police officer in Jonesboro. They even called in state troopers off duty in Little Rock, and they even had the Forestry Commission in uniform out there. So they were there to protect us from the counter-protesters. And when we got the church established, anytime we had, you know, shots rang out, or we had somebody shooting at us, we would call the police or the sheriff's department. And shots fired at the witchcraft church. State troopers would roll in, the county boys would roll in, the locals would roll in. Terry, what's going on? Oh, well, we had these shots, and they always got a report of it and stuff. So the police have always, in Jonesboro anyway, because I worked with them. When I first opened up the occult shop, I went to the chief of police, and I went to the sheriff, and sat down and said, this is who we are, and this is what we're going to do, and we're law-abiding citizens, and blah, blah, blah. And I even had a book written by a Wiccan police officer, Kara Cahulan, Wicca and Law Enforcement. And I handed him that book, and matter of fact, I even brought him down in 1993 and met with the Jonesboro Police Department. He's a police officer in Canada, so they have a brotherhood. And he explained to him. So ever since that time, the police have always protected our rights and stuff, because first of all, that's their job. I mean, I think in 2013, we had a gathering out at Craighead Forest. It was a summer solstice, okay? And we're celebrating the first day of summer. And I had a watermelon out there that day, and I had everybody, you know, I was in a robe, a couple more were in a robe, you know, and I had a sword, you know, that we use, you know, symbolism. And I had a watermelon there, so, you know, in the ceremony, I cut the watermelon with a sword to give everybody slices of the watermelon. And everybody got their watermelon. We got done with the ritual. We went over and sat down. I looked up, and there's 2 cop cars come rolling in. Jonesboro Police Department. And they go around. They finally pull up. And one of the police officers gets out, and he goes, hey, have y'all seen anybody around here in robes wielding swords? I said, yeah, that's us. He goes, excuse me? And he got out of the car. I said, Reverend Terry Riley from the Southern Baptist Church of Wicca. We're doing our summer solstice celebration. He went, oh, he goes, we got a report that the KKK was out here sacrificing things with swords. And he hollered at his partner in the other car. He goes, it's okay. It's just the Wiccans. So the police force had done their research and stuff. I said, it was my mistake because I didn't call them, tell them we was going to be doing that, because I figured somebody was going to call. You know, so that's a lot of misconceptions there too. Yeah, they've always protected us. Anytime I've needed something from any law enforcement, Johnny on the spot. We've never had a problem. As a matter of fact, I think in 1995, something like that, I sued 6 Christian ministers on a tort suit because they got on TV and called me a Satanist, and I posed a threat to local children. And I called my attorney, told me, he said, you need to call the chief of police and tell him you're filing this lawsuit, just so he knows, blah, blah, blah. So I called the chief of police, and I said, my attorney wanted me to tell you that I'm filing a lawsuit for a tort suit in Craighead County against 6 Christian ministers, and my attorney wanted me to inform you that I was doing so. Little pause of silence on the phone. He goes, Terry, are you suing the police department? I said, no. He goes, oh, okay, as long as you're not suing us, I'm happy with that. Yeah, whatever you need. I said, no, I'm not suing you. Y'all did a great job. Y'all do, no, I'm not suing the police department. So, yeah, we've always had a good working relationship. Right now, I have a good working relationship with the mayor of Lake City. We're getting a little bit more political. They figure out that we, all the members of our church here in Lake City are registered voters. So when election time comes around, they want to come around and talk to the preacher about, can we count on y'all's vote and stuff? I went, I'm not allowed to do that, but I can pass the word on. So.
Yeah. Well, class is just about up. It ends at 12:50. So thank you very much for coming. Anybody has questions for them?
You any questions right quick?
And
come on, I know I didn't do that great of a job where you don't have any questions. So.
Just to connect us back to class, what gives their protection in our government, in our country? What protects them from practicing what they want? Yeah, First Amendment, freedom of religion. So they have to be upheld. That's what makes us different from China and North Korea. Countries like that, you can't practice freely. So those who want to take away people's rights like this, pretty hypocritical, because this is what the country's based on, and those people are probably not wanting our government to be like North Korea. So just remember, just because people believe differently.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to leave my cards up here for anybody who wants to take a card, and if you have any questions later on, just contact me. Yeah. All right, thank y'all.